The alarm bells rang through the human ship Terra Nova as it moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Captain Kyle Harrison stood on the bridge looking at the screens that showed nothing but empty darkness ahead. His crew had been traveling for 3 months, mapping new star systems and looking for planets that might support human life. Amy Rodriguez sat at her communication station, listening to the usual static and background noise of space. She had been doing this job for 5 years and rarely heard anything interesting. Most days were quiet, with only the occasional signal from other human ships or automated beacons marking safe travel routes. But today was different. "Captain," Amy called out, her voice sharp with surprise. "I'm getting something strange here." Multiple signals coming from the same direction, but they're using completely different technologies. Kyle walked over to her station. "What kind of signals?" "2 different types, sir. One seems to be using some kind of crystal-based transmission system. The other is biological, almost like living tissue is generating the signal. Both are very advanced, way beyond anything we've seen before." Lisa Bennett, the ship's second-in-command, looked up from her navigation charts. "How far away are these signals coming from?" Amy checked her instruments. "About 2 light years, sir." "And Captain, there's something else. Both signals are saying the same thing." Kyle felt his stomach tighten. In 20 years of space exploration, he had never heard of 2 completely different alien species sending identical messages. "Put it through the speakers." The bridge filled with a crackling, distorted voice. The words were translated by the ship's computer, but the desperation in the tone needed no translation. "Any ships in this sector, we need help. We are the Zephyrian Empire, and we formally request mediation in our conflict with the Corvin Federation. The war has continued for 3,000 years, and neither side can achieve victory. We are willing to accept outside arbitration." Before the message finished, another voice began speaking. This one sounded different, more organic, as if it came from a living throat rather than a machine. "Unknown vessels, this is the Corvin Federation. We also request mediation in our war against the Zephyrian Empire. 3,000 years of fighting has brought us to a stalemate. We need outside help to end this conflict." The bridge fell silent. Kyle had heard stories of wars that lasted decades, even centuries, but 3,000 years was beyond human comprehension. On Earth, 3,000 years ago, humans were just beginning to build the first cities. "Amy, are you sure both messages are coming from the same area?" Kyle asked. "Yes, sir. Actually, they're coming from multiple star systems. The signals are originating from at least 4 different solar systems, all within a 20-light-year radius." Dr. Paul Carter, the ship's science officer, had been listening quietly from his station. "Captain, if I may suggest, we should investigate this carefully. A war lasting 3,000 years between 2 spacefaring civilizations would have enormous implications for the entire galaxy." Kyle nodded. "Lisa, change course. Take us toward those signals, but keep us at a safe distance. I want to know what we're dealing with before we get too close." "Yes, sir," Lisa replied, already working on the navigation computer dot. As the Terra Nova changed direction, more signals began coming through. These were not requests for help, but communication between the 2 warring factions. Even translated into English, the hatred and anger were clear. "Zephyrian scum, your crystal ships will burn in the fire of our bioweapons. Corvin animals, our energy shields will protect us while we turn your living ships into space dust." The messages went on, threats and counter-threats, insults and challenges. Kyle realized that these 2 species had been fighting for so long that hatred had become their natural state. Over the next few days, as the Terra Nova moved closer to the conflict zone, the crew began to understand the massive scope of the war. Dr. Carter analyzed the communication patterns and found that the fighting covered 17 different star systems. Amy intercepted military communications that described battles involving thousands of ships at a time. "Captain," Dr. Carter reported, "during the daily briefing, I've been studying the technical specifications mentioned in their communications. Both sides have technology far more advanced than ours. Their weapons could destroy planets, and their defenses could stop anything we could throw at them." "But they can't stop each other," Lisa observed. "Exactly. That's what makes this so interesting. They've been fighting for 3,000 years, which means they must be almost perfectly matched in terms of capability." Kyle studied the tactical displays showing the positions of the two fleets. The battle lines stretched across multiple star systems, with each side controlling roughly equal amounts of territory. "What kind of casualties are we talking about over 3,000 years? Dr. Carter's face grew grim. "Based on the population figures I can estimate from their communications, both civilizations have lost approximately 60% of their original numbers. Entire planets have been evacuated or destroyed. Some star systems are completely uninhabitable now." Amy looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm getting more requests for mediation. Both sides are sending the same message over and over. They really want outside help. But why us?" Kyle wondered aloud. "They have technology far superior to ours. What could humans possibly offer that they can't do themselves?" Dr. Carter had been thinking about the same question. "Perhaps that's exactly why they need us, sir. They're too close to the problem. They've been fighting for so long that they can't see any solution except total victory or total defeat. And neither side can achieve either one," Lisa added. Kyle made his decision. "Amy, send a response to both factions. Tell them that the human ship Terra Nova has received their requests for mediation and that we're willing to meet with representatives from both sides." "Sir," Lisa said carefully, "are you sure that's wise? We're one small exploration ship. If either side decides they don't like what we have to say, they could destroy us without breaking stride." "That's a risk we'll have to take," Kyle replied. "If these two civilizations destroy each other, it could destabilize this entire region of the galaxy. And if they're desperate enough to ask for help from a species they've never met before, then the situation must be truly hopeless." Amy sent the message, and within hours, responses came back from both sides. Both the Zephyrian Empire and the Corvan Federation agreed to meet with the human mediators. They would send representatives to a neutral location, a space station that had been abandoned early in the war dot as the Terra Nova prepared to travel to the meeting point. Kyle stood alone on the bridge, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, two ancient civilizations were locked in a war that had consumed their entire existence. They had forgotten how to live without fighting, forgotten how to imagine a future without war dot in just a few days. Kyle and his crew would meet the representatives of these warring species. They would try to find a solution to a conflict that had lasted longer than all of human recorded history. The responsibility felt overwhelming, but Kyle knew that sometimes the outsider's perspective was exactly what was needed to solve an impossible problem. The Terra Nova moved through space toward its appointment with history, carrying the hopes of two civilizations that had forgotten how to hope for anything except victory over their eternal enemy. The abandoned space station looked like a metal graveyard floating in the darkness between two hostile fleets. Captain Kyle Harrison watched through the Terra Nova's main screen as his ship approached the meeting point. The station had once been a trading post where both civilizations came to exchange goods and ideas. Now it was nothing but twisted metal and broken dreams, another casualty of the endless war. "Both delegations are already here," Amy Rodriguez reported from her communication station. "The Zephyrian ship is that crystal structure to our left. The Corvan vessel is the organic-looking thing to our right." Kyle studied both ships through the viewing screen. The Zephyrian ship looked like it was carved from a single massive diamond, with smooth surfaces that reflected the light from nearby stars. Energy patterns flowed across its surface like liquid lightning. The Corvin ship was completely different, appearing more like a giant living creature than a machine. Its hull pulsed with a steady rhythm, and what looked like breathing vents opened and closed along its sides. "My God," whispered Dr. Paul Carter, the science officer. "Those ships are incredible. The technology required to build either one is centuries beyond anything humans have achieved." Lisa Bennett, the second in command, checked the tactical displays. "And yet they've been stalemated for 3,000 years. How is that possible?" "That's what we're here to find out," Kyle replied. "Amy, signal both ships that we're ready to begin the meeting." The three ships docked with the abandoned station, using different sections to avoid any accidental contact between the warring factions. Kyle led a small team, including Dr. Carter and Lisa, onto the station. The artificial gravity still worked, but the air recycling systems were failing. They would need to wear breathing masks during the meeting. The main conference room had been chosen because it was the only space large enough for all three groups. Kyle arrived first and waited as the alien delegations entered from opposite sides of the room. The Zephyrian representative was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished metal and eyes that glowed with inner light. When it spoke, its voice had a musical quality, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The Corvin delegate was shorter and broader, with skin that seemed to shift colors constantly. Its voice was deeper, more organic, like the sound of ocean waves. "I am Commander Zara of the Zephyrian Empire," the crystal being said. "We thank the humans for agreeing to mediate our conflict." "I am War Leader Korth of the Corvin Federation," the organic being replied. "We also appreciate your willingness to help end this war." Kyle noticed that even though both beings were polite, they carefully avoided looking directly at each other. 3,000 years of hatred was not easily set aside, even for a peace conference. "Before we discuss solutions," Kyle began, "I need to understand the nature of your conflict. Dr. Carter has analyzed your communications, but we need more detailed information." Commander Zara spoke first. "The war began when the Corvins attacked our mining colonies in the outer systems. They claimed we were stealing resources that belonged to them." War Leader Korth immediately objected. "That is incorrect. The Zephyrians invaded our breeding grounds and destroyed entire generations of our young. We were forced to defend ourselves." "You see how they lie even now," Zara said, her voice becoming sharper. "They cannot admit their aggression." "The only liars here are the crystal murderers," Korth growled back. Kyle held up his hands. "Stop. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You've been fighting for so long that you can't even agree on how the war started." Dr. Carter stepped forward. "Commander Zara, War Leader Korth, I've spent the last week analyzing battle reports from both of your civilizations. May I share what I've discovered?" Both aliens nodded, though they still refused to look at each other. "Your war has become mathematically perfect," Dr. Carter explained. "Every weapon system one side develops is matched by an equal defense system from the other side. Every tactical advantage is countered by an equal disadvantage. You're not fighting a war anymore. You're trapped in an equation that has no solution." Zara's glowing eyes focused on the human scientist. "What do you mean by mathematically perfect?" "Doctor." Carter activated a portable display screen. "Look at these numbers. Over the past 1,000 years, territory has changed hands 847 times, but the total amount controlled by each side has remained exactly the same. Your casualty rates are identical. Your resource consumption is identical. Even your technological advancement rates are identical." War Leader Korth studied the display with growing amazement. "This cannot be correct. We have achieved many victories against the crystal tyrants, and we have won countless battles against the organic savages," Zara added. "Yes, you have," Dr. Carter agreed. But every victory by one side has been matched by an equivalent victory by the other side. The war has reached a perfect equilibrium. Neither side can win, because winning has become mathematically impossible. Kyle watched both aliens as they processed this information. He could see confusion and disbelief in their expressions. They had spent their entire lives believing that victory was possible, that their enemies could be defeated if they just fought hard enough. Lisa Bennett pulled up another set of data. There's more. We've analyzed your economic systems. Both civilizations spend exactly 73% of their total resources on the war effort. Both sides have the same number of factories producing weapons. Both sides have the same number of ships under construction at any given time. How is that possible? Korth asked. Because you've been copying each other for 3,000 years, Dr. Carter explained. Every time one side develops a new weapon, spies from the other side steal the technology and improve upon it. Every time one side builds a new type of ship, the other side captures one and reverse engineers it. You've been locked in an arms race for so long that you've become identical. Commander Zara was silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Are you saying that we can never win? Not as long as you continue fighting the same way, Kyle replied. You've created a closed system where every action produces an equal and opposite reaction. It's like two people pushing against each other with exactly the same force. Neither can move the other. War Leader Korth's skin color shifted rapidly, showing his emotional distress. But if we cannot win, then what has been the purpose of all this fighting? What have my people died for? That's exactly the question you need to ask yourselves, Kyle said gently. You've been fighting for so long that you've forgotten why you started fighting in the first place. Your entire civilizations have been rebuilt around this war. Your children are born into military training. Your scientists work only on weapons. Your artists create only propaganda. You've become perfect war machines, but you've forgotten how to be anything else. Dr. Carter added more data to the display. Both of your species were once explorers and builders. The Zephyrians created beautiful crystal cities that were marvels of engineering. The Corvins grew living ships that could travel between stars. But all of that stopped when the war began. We still build crystal cities, Zara protested. Military bases, Dr. Carter corrected. Weapon factories, training centers. When was the last time your people created something beautiful just for the sake of beauty? Zara couldn't answer. And you, War Leader Korth, when did your people last grow a ship designed for exploration rather than warfare? Korth also remained silent. Kyle stood up and walked to the viewing window that looked out at the two fleets waiting in space. You've both become prisoners of your own war. You can't imagine existing without your enemy, because fighting has become your entire reason for existence. But the mathematics don't lie. This war will continue forever unless something fundamental changes. What kind of change? Both aliens asked at the same time, then glared at each other for speaking in unison. Kyle smiled at their reaction. That's what we're going to figure out together. But first, you both need to accept that the current approach isn't working and never will work. The meeting continued for hours as the humans presented more evidence of the war's perfect balance. Slowly, reluctantly, both sides began to accept the impossible truth that their 3,000-year conflict had no military solution. Captain Kyle Harrison returned to the Terra Nova after 12 hours of difficult negotiations with the alien delegates. His head was pounding, and his throat was sore from trying to keep two ancient enemies from attacking each other across the conference table. Commander Zara and War Leader Korth had agreed to a temporary ceasefire while the humans studied their situation. But Kyle could see the hatred burning in their eyes every time they looked at each other. How did it go, Captain? Amy Rodriguez asked as Kyle entered the bridge. About as well as you'd expect when you put two people in the same room who have been trying to kill each other for 3,000 years. Kyle replied, settling into his command chair. But they've agreed to give us 1 week to analyze their conflict and propose a solution. Dr. Paul Carter looked up from his science station, where he had been working with data streams from both civilizations. Captain, I've been going through the technical specifications they provided. What I've found is absolutely incredible. Show me, Kyle said. Dr. Carter activated the main display screen. Both sides gave us complete information about their military capabilities, probably hoping we would see how superior they are to their enemies. But look at this data. The screen filled with charts and graphs comparing the two civilizations. Kyle studied the numbers with growing amazement. The Zephyrians have 2,847 battlecruisers. The Corvins have 2,846. The Zephyrians can produce 15 new ships per month. The Corvins can produce 16, but their construction time is slightly longer, so their annual output is identical. Lisa Bennett joined him at the display. That's an incredible coincidence. It's not a coincidence, Dr. Carter continued. Look at these weapon specifications. Zephyrian energy cannons can deliver 450 terawatts of destructive force. Corvin bioplasma weapons deliver 449 terawatts. Zephyrian shields can absorb 500 terawatts before failing. Corvin armor can withstand 501 terawatts. Kyle began to understand. They're perfectly matched. Not just matched, Captain. They're identical in every way that matters for warfare. Population, numbers, resource production, technological advancement rates, even military training effectiveness. After 3,000 years of competition, they've evolved into mirror images of each other. Amy pulled up communication records on her station. I've been listening to their military chatter. Even their battle tactics are almost identical. When one side attacks from the left, the other side defends on the left with exactly the same formation. Dr. Carter nodded. They've been studying each other for so long that they can predict every move their enemy will make. Every strategy has been tried thousands of times. Every weapon has been countered. Every defense has been overcome and then rebuilt stronger. Lisa shook her head in disbelief. No wonder they can't win. They're literally fighting themselves. Kyle stood up and walked to the main viewing screen that showed the two alien fleets hanging motionless in space. Dr. Carter, show me the historical data. How did this perfect balance develop? The display changed to show a timeline stretching back 3,000 years. It started normally enough, Dr. Carter explained. The Zephyrians had superior energy weapons, but weaker defenses. The Corvins had stronger armor, but slower ships. During the first 1,000 years, the advantage shifted back and forth as each side developed new technologies. But then something changed, Kyle observed, watching the data streams. Exactly. Around 2,000 years ago, both sides began capturing and studying each other's technology. Every advance by one civilization was quickly copied and improved by the other. The technological gap began to close. Amy added her own research. I found records of prisoner exchanges, defectors, and captured equipment. Both sides have been stealing from each other for 2 millennia. The result, Dr. Carter continued, is that they now use essentially the same technology, just with different appearances. Zephyrian crystal computers and Corvin bioneural networks perform identical functions at identical speeds. Their weapons look different, but have the same destructive power. Their ships are built from different materials, but have the same speed and armor strength. Kyle studied the data for several minutes. What about their societies? Are they identical? There too? Dr. Carter pulled up cultural information that both sides had provided. This is where it gets really interesting, Captain. Both civilizations have organized themselves into perfect war machines. Military service is mandatory for all citizens. Scientists work only on weapons research. Engineers design only military equipment. Even their entertainment consists of war. Stories and battle simulations. Lisa examined the population data. Look at this. Both sides have the same percentage of their population in the military, the same number of weapons factories, even the same number of training academies. They've become mirror images, Kyle realized. Not just technologically, but socially and culturally too. Amy discovered something else in the communication records. Captain, I found something disturbing. Both sides are using the same strategic planning software. The algorithms they use to decide when and where to attack are identical. How is that possible? Lisa asked. Dr. Carter pulled up the technical specifications. They both developed artificial intelligence systems to help plan their military campaigns. But over the centuries, these systems have been captured, studied, and copied so many times that they're now essentially the same program running on different hardware. Kyle felt a chill as he understood the implications. So when the Zephyrian computers decide the best time to attack a Corvan position, the Corvan computers are running the same calculations and reaching the same conclusion about the best time to defend that position. Exactly, Dr. Carter confirmed. They're not just fighting an enemy anymore. They're fighting a mathematically perfect prediction of themselves. The bridge fell silent as the crew absorbed this information. After a few minutes, Kyle asked the question that was on everyone's mind. Is there any way to break this cycle? Dr. Carter looked uncertain. Traditional military solutions won't work. You can't outfight an enemy that knows everything you're going to do before you do it. Diplomatic solutions are also unlikely because both sides have invested their entire identity in this war. Amy pulled up more communication intercepts. Captain, I've been monitoring conversations between ordinary citizens on both sides. They don't even remember what life was like before the war. Their children are born into military training programs. Their schools teach only subjects related to warfare. Their entire culture revolves around defeating their enemy. Lisa studied the population statistics. 3,000 years is a long time. That's approximately 150 generations for both species. No one alive has any memory of peace. Kyle walked back to his command chair, his mind racing through possibilities. What would happen if the war just stopped? If both sides suddenly declared peace? Dr. Carter considered this. Based on their current social structure, it would be catastrophic. Their entire economy is built around military production. Their government systems are designed for wartime command structures. Their population has no skills except warfare. Without an enemy to fight, both civilizations would probably collapse. So they're trapped, Kyle concluded. They can't win the war, but they can't stop fighting either. Amy looked up from her station. Captain, there's something else. I've been analyzing the energy signatures from both fleets. Even their power generation systems are nearly identical now. If you didn't know which ship was which, you couldn't tell them apart on sensors. Dr. Carter added the final piece of the puzzle. Captain, I believe both civilizations are locked in what mathematicians call a stable equilibrium. Like a ball. Sitting at the bottom of a bowl, any small change just returns the system to its original state. The war has become self-sustaining and self-correcting. Kyle stared out at the alien fleets, thinking about two entire civilizations trapped in an endless cycle of violence that they could neither win nor escape. Somewhere in those ships were billions of intelligent beings who had never known peace, who couldn't even imagine what life might be like without war. There has to be a way, Kyle said finally. No system is completely closed. There's always an outside force that can change the equation. Lisa looked at him hopefully. What kind of outside force? Kyle smiled grimly. U.S., We're the variable that doesn't fit their calculations. We're outside their perfect mathematical balance. If anyone can break this cycle, it's going to be humanity. The question was how. Captain Kyle Harrison stood in the Terra Nova's main conference room, looking at the detailed plans spread across the table. 3 days had passed since the human crew began working on their solution to the impossible war. The plan they had developed was so simple that it seemed almost foolish, yet so audacious that it might actually work. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Lisa Bennett said, studying the diagrams. "We're going to end a 3,000-year war by essentially turning off both sides, like you would shut down a computer?" "That's exactly what we're going to do," Kyle replied. Dr. Carter's analysis showed us that both civilizations have become perfect machines designed for warfare. Like any machine, they have critical systems that keep them running. If we can temporarily disable those systems, the war stops. Dr. Paul Carter pointed to a series of charts showing the infrastructure that supported both alien civilizations. The key insight is that both sides depend on automated systems for almost everything. Their weapons are controlled by computers. Their ships are guided by artificial intelligence. Their supply lines are managed by robotic networks. After 3,000 years of warfare, they've removed human error from the equation by making everything automatic. Amy Rodriguez looked up from her communication station, where she had been monitoring alien transmissions. "But won't they just restart everything once they realize what we've done?" "That's where the psychology comes in," Kyle explained. "Both sides are so perfectly matched that they're terrified of being caught at a disadvantage. If we shut down both sides simultaneously, neither will want to be the first to restart hostilities because they'll be afraid the other side is setting a trap." Danny Foster, the chief engineer, had been studying the technical specifications of both alien technologies. "Captain, I've identified the critical systems we need to target. Both civilizations use quantum communication networks to coordinate their fleets. If we can interrupt those networks, their ships won't be able to communicate with each other or with their command centers." "How do we interrupt quantum communications?" Lisa asked. Danny smiled. "With good old-fashioned human engineering. The aliens have developed incredibly sophisticated quantum systems, but they're designed to resist quantum interference. They never considered someone might attack them with simple electromagnetic pulses calibrated to disrupt their quantum field generators." Dr. Carter added another element to the plan. "We've also identified their automated defense systems. Both sides use artificial intelligence to control their weapons and shields. These AI systems are designed to react instantly to threats, but they're programmed to shut down for maintenance when they receive specific command codes." "And you've figured out those command codes?" Kyle asked. "Better than that," Dr. Carter replied. "Amy discovered that both sides use almost identical codes because they've been copying each other's systems for centuries. If we broadcast the maintenance shutdown code on the right frequency, both fleets will think they're receiving legitimate orders from their own command structure." Amy pulled up her communication analysis. "I've been studying their military protocols. For the past 3 days, both sides have specific procedures for fleet-wide maintenance shutdowns. It happens regularly to prevent system overloads. The crews are trained to comply immediately when they receive those orders." Kyle studied the timing charts that showed when and how the plan would unfold. "So our 5-hour window works like this. First hour, we establish communication with both sides and convince them to allow us to install monitoring equipment on their neutral facilities. Second hour, we use that equipment to map their complete communication and control networks. Third hour, we simultaneously activate electromagnetic pulse generators to disrupt quantum communications while broadcasting maintenance shutdown codes. Fourth hour, both fleets go dark and realize they can't communicate with each other or their home worlds. Fifth hour, we broadcast a joint message explaining what we've done and why. Lisa shook her head in amazement. You're betting that too. Civilizations with technology centuries ahead of ours won't be able to counteract a plan devised by humans in less than a week? That's exactly what I'm betting, Kyle confirmed. Their technology is superior, but it's predictable. They've been developing it to fight each other for 3,000 years. They never considered threats that don't fit their warfare paradigm. Danny. Foster had been working on the technical details. Captain, I've built the electromagnetic pulse generators using components from our own ship. They're crude compared to alien technology, but that's exactly why they'll work. The alien systems are designed to defend against sophisticated quantum weapons, not simple electromagnetic interference. Dr. Carter showed them the psychological analysis he had prepared. The key to making this work is timing. Both sides must be convinced that the shutdown is temporary and that their enemies are equally helpless. If either side thinks they have an advantage, they'll try to exploit it and the fighting will resume. Amy had prepared the communication protocols. I've written messages in both alien languages, explaining that we're conducting a systems compatibility test to help with mediation. Both sides have agreed to cooperate with our technical requirements because they're desperate for a solution. Kyle looked at each member of his crew. I want to be clear about what we're attempting. We're going to deceive two advanced civilizations, disable their military capabilities, and force them into a situation they've never experienced before. If this goes wrong, they might decide that humans are a threat that needs to be eliminated. Lisa nodded grimly. And if we do nothing, they'll keep fighting forever while their war spreads to other star systems. Exactly, Kyle replied. Sometimes you have to take a big risk to prevent an even bigger disaster. The crew spent the next several hours finalizing their preparations. Danny installed the electromagnetic pulse generators on 3 small shuttles that would be positioned at key points around both fleets. Amy programmed the communication systems to broadcast the shutdown codes on the correct frequencies. Dr. Carter prepared detailed explanations of what they were doing and why, ready to transmit to both sides once the shutdown was complete. Captain, Amy reported, both alien delegations are requesting another meeting. They want to know what progress we've made toward a solution. Perfect timing, Kyle replied. Tell them we're ready to implement our mediation plan, but we need their cooperation to install monitoring equipment on their ships and facilities. The meeting took place on the abandoned space station again. Commander Zara of the Zephyrians and War Leader Korth of the Corvins listened carefully as Kyle explained. The human plan. You want to install human equipment on our ships? Zara asked suspiciously. Monitoring equipment only, Kyle assured her. We need to observe your communication systems and command structures to understand how decisions are made during combat. This information will help us design a peace treaty that both sides can accept. War Leader Korth was equally suspicious. What kind of monitoring equipment? Dr. Carter showed them technical specifications that looked impressive but revealed nothing about the equipment's true purpose. Standard observation devices used in human diplomatic missions. They record communication patterns and decision-making processes, completely non-threatening. Both aliens studied the specifications carefully. After 3,000 years of warfare, they were naturally paranoid about allowing foreign technology near their ships. But their desperation for a solution to the war overcame their caution. Very well, Commander Zara agreed. You may install your monitoring equipment. We also agree, War Leader Korth added. But any attempt to sabotage our systems will be considered an act of war. Kyle smiled reassuringly. We understand completely. Our only goal is to help both of your civilizations find peace. Over thee. Next day, human shuttles moved between the alien ships, installing what appeared to be passive monitoring equipment. The aliens watched carefully, but saw nothing threatening about the small devices that Danny Foster placed in key locations throughout their fleets. What they didn't realize was that those innocent-looking monitors contained the electromagnetic, pulse generators, and quantum communication, disruptors that would soon bring their 3,000-year war to a sudden halt. As the human crew returned to the Terra Nova and prepared for the final phase of their plan, Kyle felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. In just a few hours, they would either end the longest war in galactic history or start an even bigger conflict with humanity as the target. "All stations report ready, Captain," Lisa announced. Kyle took a deep breath and gave the order that would change the galaxy forever. Begin the shutdown sequence. At exactly 14 o'clock Galactic Standard Time, Danny Foster activated the electromagnetic pulse generators hidden throughout both alien fleets. The effect was immediate and total. Across 17 star systems, the lights went out on thousands of warships. As their quantum communication networks suddenly went silent, Captain Kyle Harrison watched from the Terra Nova's bridge as the massive alien fleets floating in space around them began to drift helplessly. The crystal ships of the Zephyrian Empire, which had glowed with internal energy for 3,000 years, went completely dark. The organic vessels of the Corvin Federation, which had pulsed with living rhythms since the war began, became still and quiet. "All pulse generators have activated successfully," Danny reported from his engineering station. "Both fleets are showing complete communication blackout." Amy Rodriguez monitored the radio frequencies that had been filled with constant military chatter for days. "I'm getting no transmissions from either side, Captain. The silence is complete." Dr. Paul Carter checked his sensors. "Both fleets are still intact, and their life support systems are functioning normally. We've only disabled their military communication and command systems, just as planned." For the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy's longest war had simply stopped. No final battle, no peace treaty, no surrender. The fighting had ended because fighting had become impossible. Kyle felt a mixture of relief and nervousness. The first part of their plan had worked perfectly, but the real test was yet to come. "Amy, begin broadcasting our message to both fleets." Amy activated the Terra Nova's communication system and began transmitting on all frequencies that both civilizations used. Her voice carried across space to reach thousands of alien ships that were sitting in darkness, trying to understand what had happened to them. "Attention, Zephyrian Empire and Corvin Federation fleets. This is Captain Kyle Harrison of the human vessel Terra Nova. Your communication systems have been temporarily disabled as part of our mediation effort. This shutdown affects both sides equally and is completely reversible. No permanent damage has been done to your ships or equipment." The silence continued for several more minutes. Then, gradually, short-range communication systems began coming back online as individual ships activated their emergency backup networks. Kyle had expected this. Their electromagnetic pulses had only disabled the main quantum communication arrays. Local ship-to-ship communication would return quickly. "Captain," Amy reported, "I'm starting to receive transmissions from both fleets. They sound confused and angry." "Put them through," Kyle ordered. The bridge filled with overlapping voices as both alien civilizations tried to understand what had happened. The translations came through the ship's computer, but the panic and confusion needed no translation. "Command Center, this is Battle Group 7. We have lost all long-range communication. Requesting instructions. War Fleet Delta reporting total communication failure. Are we under attack? Crystal Squadron 12 requesting immediate assistance. Our quantum arrays are non-functional. BO Ship Collective 9 reporting system-wide communication breakdown. Unknown cause." Kyle listened to the chaos for several minutes, then signaled Amy to open a general broadcast channel. Attention all ships. This is Captain Harrison. I will explain exactly what has happened and why. The alien voices gradually quieted as Kyle began speaking. For the past week, my crew has studied your conflict. We discovered that your war has reached a mathematical equilibrium that makes victory impossible for either side. You are trapped in a perfect balance where every action produces an equal reaction. The war cannot be won, but your civilizations have become so dependent on fighting that you cannot stop either. Kyle paused to let this information sink in before continuing. What we have done is prove to both of you that your war is not inevitable. Your fleets are sitting in space right now, completely unable to fight each other, and the galaxy has not ended. Your ships still function. Your crews are still alive. The only thing that has changed is that you cannot kill each other for a few hours. Dr. Carter had prepared detailed explanations of how the shutdown worked, and Amy began transmitting the technical information to both fleets. The aliens were advanced enough to understand immediately that the humans had used simple electromagnetic interference to disrupt their sophisticated quantum systems. This is impossible, came a transmission from the Zephyrian fleet. How could such primitive technology affect our quantum communication networks? War Leader Korth's voice came through from the Corvin side. The humans have tricked us. They made us believe their equipment was harmless. We did not trick you, Kyle replied calmly. We told you we were installing monitoring equipment, and that is exactly what we did. The equipment monitored your systems and found the precise frequencies needed to temporarily disable them. Everything we did was designed to harm no one and damage nothing. Commander Zara's voice joined the conversation. But why? What did you hope to accomplish by disabling both our fleets? Kyle had been waiting for this question. To show you that peace is possible. Right now, for the first time in 3,000 years, Zephyrian and Corvin ships are floating in the same space without shooting at each other. Your crews can see your enemies, and your enemies can see you, but no one is dying. The communication channels fell silent as both sides considered this. Kyle could imagine the alien crews looking across space at their ancient enemies, seeing them not as targets to destroy, but as fellow beings trapped in the same impossible situation. Lisa Bennett monitored the tactical displays showing both fleets. Captain, something interesting is happening. Ships from both sides are moving closer to each other, but they're not taking aggressive positions. Dr. Carter confirmed his observation. The movement patterns suggest curiosity rather than hostility. Without their battle computers giving them constant targeting information, the crews are seeing their enemies as individuals for the first time. Amy reported another change. I'm receiving direct ship-to-ship communications between Zephyrian and Corvin vessels. They're not threatening each other. They're asking questions. Kyle listened as the translated conversations came through the speakers. Zephyrian vessel, this is Corvin ship 447. Is your crew unharmed? Corvin ship 447. This is Crystal Destroyer 23. Our crew is safe. Are your systems also non-functional? Yes, our quantum arrays are disabled. Do you know what the humans did? To us? They stopped us from fighting. I confess, it is strange to speak with a Corvin without exchanging weapon fire. It is equally strange for us, Crystal Destroyer 23. Your ship is beautiful. I had never noticed before. Kyle smiled as he listened to more conversations like this. After 3,000 years of hatred, curiosity was winning over hostility. Doctor Carter made another observation. Captain, I'm detecting something remarkable. Both fleets are beginning to share technical information about the communication blackout. They're working together to understand what happened. Working together? Kyle asked. Yes, sir. Zephyrian engineers are explaining quantum theory to Corvin technicians, and Corvin biospecialists are teaching Zephyrians about organic computer systems. They're cooperating. Amy looked up from her station with excitement. Captain, I'm receiving a joint communication from both fleet commanders. They want to speak with you. Kyle took a deep breath. Put them through. Commander Zara and War Leader Korth spoke together, their voices coming through the same channel for the first time in recorded history. Captain Harrison, Zara began, we have been discussing what you have shown us. Korth continued, we realize that our war has indeed become meaningless. We have been fighting for so long that we forgot we are both intelligent species capable of more than destruction. We would like to propose something that has not happened for 3,000 years, Zara added. A meeting between our species to discuss peace. Kyle felt a surge of triumph. We would be honored to help arrange such a meeting. Over the following hours, as the communication systems gradually came back online, something unprecedented began to happen. Instead of resuming hostilities, both civilizations began talking to each other. Scientists exchanged research data. Engineers shared technological innovations. Military officers discussed converting their war fleets into exploration vessels. The 5-hour shutdown had accomplished something that 3,000 years of warfare could not. It had reminded two ancient enemies that they were both thinking, feeling beings capable of choice. 6 months later, Kyle stood on the observation deck of the new joint Zephyrian-Corvin research station, watching mixed crews working together to build ships designed for exploration rather than destruction. The Treaty of Terra Nova had established permanent peace between the former enemies and created the galaxy's most productive scientific partnership. You know what the most interesting part is? Lisa said, joining him at the viewing window. What's that? They're accomplishing more in 6 months of cooperation than they did in 3,000 years of war. It turns out that when you combine crystal technology with bioengineering, you can create wonders. Kyle nodded, watching a beautiful new ship take shape in the construction bay below. It was built from living crystal that could repair itself and grow stronger over time. Neither civilization could have created it alone.